Welcome back, Fantasy Fiction Fanatics. It's great to see you again, and I hope you're doing well. Today's class is going to be on the next set of chapters for Castle of Wizardry, chapters 7 through 12. Hopefully you guys are still enjoying the journey and still enjoying our discussions of it. Things are really starting to get into the thick of things, and we're really going to see where we're going to go from here. So hopefully you guys are excited for that. But before we go ahead and jump into today's class, I would like to say a couple things first. And the first thing I'd like to go over is just a big thank you to both Christian and Michael, who both donated to me in the last couple of days. I truly appreciate your support and your willingness to donate in order to help out the channel, and that you like the content enough to do so. So I really, truly appreciate it. It's very humbling, and I hope that I can continue to bring you good content. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I truly do appreciate you. Second thing, let's go ahead and go over the trivia questions. So this week, thank you to everyone who participated and for playing with me. I truly love seeing your answers and seeing who gets the question right. This week, I had one correct answer from asking about in his Dark Materials what Mrs. Coulter's demon is, and it is a monkey. So congratulations to Christian. Sam Elliott is King of Mustaches for getting it correct, and thank you to everyone who participated, and hopefully you will continue to participate for next week's trivia. If you have not joined the trivia question yet and are wondering how, you can go over to the blog fantasyfictionfanatics.net. If you are on desktop, it will be on that right hand side. You'll just have to scroll down just a tiny little bit in order to see the question. And if you are on mobile, you'll have to scroll almost all the way down to the bottom, but you will find the question down there. So you're welcome to join. It changes every week, and you will be able to find out on the next week's lesson on the website or on the Discord if you got it correct by the end of the week. All right, let's go ahead and jump in with our recap. We kind of don't have tons of big events going on except for at the end of these chapters, mostly traveling and most wrapping up to try and get to this endpoint that we have in chapter 11. I believe it's at the end of chapter 11, yes, where he is crowned king. So most of this is more of a push to get to this final point that we've been kind of waiting for since the very beginning of book 1. So Belgariad slowly regains his health at the start of this section, and Garion is spending time with his cousin, getting closer to his cousin and enjoying having some knowledge that he has family and someone who can be family to him, along with Aunt Pole and Belgariad. So he's really enjoying his cousin Adara, and they're spending time together as Belgariad is slowly getting back on his feet. And once Belgariad is recovered enough, everybody packs up and they set back out to Ulgo in order to pick up Sinedra on their way. So they do make it back, they grab Sinedra, and they continue forth through the caves to Sindaria. So they have Rel guide them through the caves all the way to the Sindaria area in order to bypass a lot of the other traveling they would have to do. Once they are close to the end of Sindaria and kind of passing through, Holgara, Sinedra, and Garion do make a slight detour over to Falder's farm, where they spend one night and one day just reminiscing about their time there and making a point of, for Garion at least, that he's not going to be able to go back to the farm. So it's kind of a little bit of a goodbye visit for him. And then they join back up with the group in order to all sail to Riva. So definitely probably everybody already knew what we're kind of leading toward by getting to Riva. But as everybody lands there, they find that there's tons of people there. So many other royal members are there. Lildoran is back and has been called over there. So we've got quite a group that have all managed to collect themselves over on the Riven Islands. And the next day, after the one day that they had, the next day, Garion and Erend both enter the main hall and present the orb. where Garion takes the orb, which shows that he is in fact the Riven King because he unites the orb back with the sword, and it reacts to him as being the King of Riva. So after that, the next day, he's trying to get his head wrapped around the fact that he is king and that everyone's calling him Your Majesty and treating him very importantly. He's not used to that at all and doesn't quite like it, doesn't quite know what to do with it. So he decides to take a trip around town to kind of get away with that, kind of try and mellow out people's reactions to him by just walking around and also getting a chance to learn who these people are that he is going to be the leader of. And then at the end of chapter 12, right at the end, he does have his coronation and he is officially crowned as king. Okay, so that is what this section covered. So 6 chapters. Within these 6 chapters, things change a lot in the fact that at first we're just traveling forward and we're just kind of doing the same thing as always, and then bam, Garion is King of Riva, and he finally understands what his true heritage is, where his lineage is from. And it's very interesting because this is going to change everything. This is kind of what we've all been leading up to, and then bam, we finally get the moment that we've been waiting for. And it's only about halfway through book 4. We still have a book and a half to go to find out what's going to happen from here. So the first thing I want to talk about is Sinedra. And we've talked about her before. We've talked about how she's had, a little bit of growth sometimes. We've talked about her relationship with Garion and her feelings toward him and how she treats him. And we've talked a little bit about just, her role. Obviously, we understand that she's going to marry Garion, even though both of them don't know that at this point. Well, I mean, now they did, but at the point that we talked about it, that they didn't know about it. And stuff like that. So we've talked about her a couple times. She has been the more oriented a couple times, like where we've seen followed her around versus Garion, that kind of stuff. So she's a pretty prominent character. But at this moment in time, I would really like to talk about how I feel that she is a very stagnant character. Probably the most stagnant of the group, in my opinion, and the fact that even though she has had some changes, I don't feel like she's grown much at all. Like, I mean, in certain ways, I feel like at times she has moments that she is more mature and handles things better than others, but overall, as the kind of person that she is and the way that she views the world, she has been a very stagnant character throughout her whole time in this book, and I feel like it all really shoots and hits home in this set of chapters because she has always been and still is the most sensitive, image-driven person like ever. Not saying that she cannot grow in the future. Obviously, there's still a lot of time, and I do feel like with her and being married to Garion and having that connection with him will possibly change her, especially since then she will be a very important queen in this world. But at this point, she's pretty much just driven by image, by being petty, and her sensitivity is like the front of the line. I mean, even with her time in the Ulgo, where I was thinking she had maybe changed a little bit, she's still very much a tantrum thrower. She's all over the place. She doesn't really think about her actions and doesn't really care about her actions, or, when she makes mistakes, she doesn't ever acknowledge them. And even when the group comes back, she just assumes that Adara is someone that Garion fell in love with. Now, sure, she didn't know that he had other family, since he didn't know he had other family. But just because there is a girl in the group, why would she just automatically assume that he is in love with her, especially romantically? Like, this makes no sense. And then she goes up to him and says that he is the most horrible person and she hates him with all her might. Like, that is a very deep-seated something to say. It's very hurtful. That's very petty to just decide on her part that she's right about the situation, that when she made a leap of judgment. then goes up to him and decides to blame all of it on him. The fact that, he could possibly be in love with somebody else even though he's not. And just say that he is the most horrible person and she hates him. And then not only that, she doesn't acknowledge the mistake that she made. She just acts like it never happened. Like she never said it. And that's so horrible to treat him that way. To say such hurtful things and then act like, oh, he should be grateful to still have her hanging around because she decided everything's fine. So, especially because she even mentions that she has decided that and figured out that she fully loves him. She treats him like garbage just because she wants to feel like she's always right and that she never presents herself as wrong and anything that she does can never be wrong and that she's all self-important. And it's just horrible to me. Like I really feel like she has made no progress at all. She even argues continually with Aunt Pole about even going to Riva because she just refuses, doesn't want to have to marry some person that she doesn't know, though she doesn't understand that then she's saying no to marrying the person she actually loves before she finds out. But it's like she's just so caught up in her own frame of mind and doesn't really give anything a chance. And she can't stand then once Garion is, the king of Riva, which you would think would be good for her because then she has to marry then she's marrying the person she loves. But she can't stand that then he's more important than her. Even though she's marrying him, which means, she would then be equally as important. So, but for her, she doesn't see it that way. She just sees that she's been tricked into thinking he's less when really he's more than her, and then she just can't stand that. So, let me know what you think of Sinedra and her character, whether you see if she's grown, whether you think that she hasn't grown. I have had some subscribers who I know do not like Garion and find that he's super annoying and just childish, and I feel like for me, Sinedra is way better at being childish and petty and annoying, personally. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Sinedra and how she is at this point. Of course, she does still have some time to grow and to become better or different than she is now, especially if she takes on the responsibility of being Garion's wife, which is the equivalent of being the queen of the world. So, and that is her prophetic position in the prophecy, is to be the queen of the world. So we're gonna see how things go. But then again, I would like to know your thoughts, especially with how she treated Garion when she sees him with Adara and misunderstands the situation. Yes, please let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts and whether you think the two of them are a good match or not. So the next thing I'd like to talk about is how we are at a turning point in this story. The main plot direction is now shifting. And it might not seem that it's shifting in the fact that we are still working towards defeating Torak, which was the beginning of this story. We also knew that that was coming. But it really is a big change in the fact that so far from very first page till this point, it was leading us to get the orb back and to get Garion as the king of Riva. So the whole trajectory so far was that, we saw him growing up and then the orb was stolen and they had to then chase it. And so from, halfway through book one, or probably a little bit sooner than that, is we're just following them chasing the orb and how important it is to get it back. And now we're in the middle of book 4, and we have not only gotten the orb, we've gotten it to Riva where its rightful place is, and Garion is now on the throne, and is now understanding his legacy and what his whole life is now going to be dedicated to in the future, which is going to be ruling Riva and protecting this orb forever. So definitely a big portion of the story has been completed for this task. And now, after, because everything else was kind of in the background, like Torak was in the background of it. The most important thing was just making sure it didn't reach Torak. And they did complete that. So now they're going to shift to this new direction of Torak needing to be handled, because we already knew from before that the Riven King was then going to have to go against Torak once and for all to make it an ending, that this is for sure what fate has decided is going to be the case, whether Torak wins or Garion wins, or the side of good, I guess you could say, or the side of evil is going to win. So we've really gotten to a point where we're going to turn in direction and move forward along the secondary path that we had kind of set up at the beginning. And the thing that's interesting is Garion has not really been groomed to be the king of Riva and to fight Torak. Not only did he grow up on a humble beginning, he also wasn't really ever given instructions on how to do, even just leadership tasks, or even, given responsibilities like that. Usually Aunt Pole and Belgariad, though especially Aunt Pole, was kind of just like, oh, you just stay out of the way, don't do anything, we have it handled kind of attitude toward him. He was not given a lot of responsibilities, and until recently he'd never even been in charge of anything, and he was only in charge for a short time when Belgariad and Aunt Pole were out of commission for that short period of time. So now we're transitioning into him becoming truly who he's meant to be in order to defeat Torak. We're kind of at this point where we've gotten the main objective of getting the orb back, and now we have to find this point where he can grow into being a person that can be a leader and someone that can defeat evil god. Which is going to be a lot of pressure, I'm sure, even though he kind of might have a little bit of an idea that this is coming. He might also not, knowing Garion and how dense he can be sometimes. But it's going to be interesting to see how this last book and a half ends up turning out now that we've kind of switched our goals and proceeded with our secondary thoughts that were kind of presented but not really, fleshed out, and now we're going to see exactly where they're going to go from here. So definitely an interesting section to see, is that, for so long we've had one goal and now it's been completed, and now we have to switch gears and go on this journey still in order to fully complete it. What do you think about this shift? Do you like where we are left off? Do you feel like you have questions? Do you feel like, no one's really in the frame of mind in order to get there? What are your thoughts and feelings on Garion going up against Torak, especially where he's at right now? Definitely would love to hear your opinions on that. Now let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about Garion, just in the fact that, as we've just covered, this is a big change for him. He has now been crowned king, and he wasn't really grown up knowing how to do this role. He wasn't really given the tools very well to be prepared to take on this kind of responsibility. I do think he handles the news and the idea of him having to be king very well. I mean, he doesn't even know before the ceremony what the heck he's supposed to do. He's just expected to just randomly know exactly how things are supposed to go, when he's supposed to enter all this stuff. And he just is absorbed in the fact that the sword is glowing blue, and he raises it up just kind of more instinctively with an awe. So when he actually kind of wraps his mind around being, the king, he takes it rather well, in my opinion. He doesn't freak out. He isn't comfortable with it, per se, but that's understandable. I mean, he wasn't raised to be comfortable with that kind of situation, that kind of treatment. He's from a farm and used to traveling and being told to stay out of the way. So it makes sense that he would not be 100% comfortable with it. And I also feel that it's a good sign that he's not 100% comfortable with it, and the fact that he's not someone who's going to be like Sinedra, who's expecting everyone to fall over their feet and serve him, to do everything for him. It does give him some good knowledge about the world, outside of being royalty and being rich and being able to have everyone wait on you and care about you and protect you. So he understands the hardships of the world. He understands what it's like to do things for himself, and he understands what it's like for people to live without with having to do hard work. So he definitely has good skills that way that would help him to be a leader and to help him rule his people. I do appreciate that he, like I said, that he's very uncomfortable with it, that he doesn't just take to it and then demand like, oh hey, I don't have to do anything, let's everybody do everything else for me. He's very calm, collected, and would like to just continue down his own path. He's not somebody who is seeking power, and that I think is a very, very important aspect for Garion, and something that I really truly admire about him. He didn't even want to be someone who could wield magic. That was not something he wanted for himself, because he doesn't want to have to deal with the responsibility it has to have that power. He wasn't actively searching to want to be a king or to want to be a ruler, which is good, because then he will hopefully not take that power for granted. He is very, very shocked in order to learn that he is going to marry Sinedra. And with the treatment that she's treated of him, I can't really blame him for wanting to go to Silk and ask if there's any possible way to get out of it. She has not been that great to him, so I can't really blame him for really wanting to get out of it. I don't think it's because he doesn't like her. In fact, I think he does like her. He just doesn't understand her at all. And that makes sense, because she is all over the place, as we discussed. So I do think it's funny that he immediately goes to Silk and is like, please tell me how to get out of this. Of course, there is no getting out of it for him. But he's also not just taking Sinedra for granted either and just being like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to marry you, good, then I get a high quality bride or anything like that. He definitely doesn't want it to be a problem, or doesn't want it to be something that will be negative in thought for both of them. He also is very mystified by the fact that she doesn't like that he is a higher ranking, even though neither of them knew, so that's pretty interesting as well. I do really like his interactions with her, and do really like how he is confused by her, but also a little bit intrigued. I think this whole time he's always been a little bit intrigued with her, and has missed her on several occasions when he hasn't been around her. So it does show that there are signs that he does truly care about her. And we'll see how this marriage works, especially with her and the way she acts. Like, I don't wish her on anybody, because she would be all over the place and make it very confusing at times to understand where he stands. So definitely don't blame him for wanting to find a way out, but sadly, he's going to be disappointed. Overall, though, I think he is taking things really well. I think he's going to make a good king. I do think he has some skills he needs to learn and some growing up to do still in order to defeat Torek and to be the person that Riva needs, and the kind of guardian that the orb needs. But we do have another book and a half to go where he can do that growing up and can make those decisions that need to be made. Let me know what you think about all the characters at this point. Let me know what you think about Garion. Let me know what you think about what happened in these set of chapters. I would just love to have a conversation with you about it. So anything at all, anything you think I missed, or anything that you thought was important that I didn't mention, go ahead and let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Now, last but not least, let's go ahead and go over the nitty gritty. I actually have quite a few things in the nitty gritty. I had a lot of things that I felt like would be fun just to mention, or things to keep in mind as we continue forward. So the first thing that I picked up on is that the fact that we still don't actually know if Belgariad is going to be okay magic-wise. He has physically recovered, but until he tries to use his magic, we won't really know if he has magic or not. So we're still at a point that we don't actually know what his recovery status is. We might still be in the clear, or we might still be in a hard place. So we're gonna go ahead and find that out, hopefully in the next set of chapters. But we are really on our own with this, and hopefully he did make a full recovery since that is so important. But if not, they will have to deal with that from there. So definitely something to keep in mind and something that we will have to learn in the future. The next thing is just something fun. I just love how Leldorin has like this whole ridiculous adventure that he's telling Garion about, and how much trouble he gets into in just a week. I just thought that was fun and totally on point for Leldorin to be coming back into the picture. We had him way back in book 2, and we lost him back in book 2. He was barely in there, but made quite a impression on Garion, and now he's back. So pretty interesting reunion story that he got to tell Garion. What did you think of his whole adventure with Ariana and the whole escape and all the problems he caused? I definitely just thought it was fun, good little piece of humor to have in there, and very on point for his character. Next, I thought was kind of important to note or just keep in mind is that he had to say goodbye to Falder's farm, how he did it on his own, but also it's very sad that he had to let go of his childhood. He had to let go of a place and a set of people that were very, very important to him. And I think that is also something that will be important for him to be able to move forward into a place that he can then become a king of Riva. But it was definitely a very sad moment. He really cared about the people there, and he had to say goodbye, even though I do think it cost him a little bit to be able to do that. Okay, and then another thing that I wanted to talk about for Garion is the fact that he is a magic user. Now, being a magic user usually entails, like Belgariad and Aunt Pole, a long, very, very, very long, everlasting life. And now, Garion has developed into a magic user, so that would then seem that possibly he might also have a very, very, very long life. So what does that mean for him being the Riven King and also possibly living, 7,000 years? Does that mean he will be king for forever? Is that actually going to be the case? Is it going to be different for him? I mean, also that means that Sinedra, as somebody who doesn't work magic, if he does live that long life, would not be able to live that long of a life. So I just think it's interesting thought, especially at this point of him being actually king, just kind of dawned on me, like, oh, I wonder if we'll find out what that means for him in this context and how long he will live, and what kind of life he will be expected to have because of this long life, and how that will affect the Riven dynasty, as it were. Just an interesting thought. Love to hear what your opinions on that are and what your guesses or thoughts are for the future of that kind of topic, of whether you think he will live forever or not, or live at least a very, very long life. And last but not least, I just wanted to mention how I loved how emotional the moment was where Pelgara saw that bird that was made of glass, and how much it meant to her. I felt like that was a very touching moment on her part, which we usually don't see her as a soft person. Not that we never see her as a soft person, but usually she's a lot more strict, a lot more of a harsher, strong person as a friend. And this was a time where she was very, very vulnerable and was very touched by the gift that she was given. So I just really liked that sweet little moment from her. Okay, that is it on what I have for this set of chapters. I feel like we kind of have these chapters, other than the last couple, as more of a transitioning set where we were doing a lot of traveling, a lot of getting us to pardon me, that max moment where Belgariad becomes king and the orb is then put in its rightful place. Alright, so I'd love to hear all of your thoughts, your feelings about everything so far, what you think will be coming. Anything that you'd like to say, I would love to hear about it and have a discussion about it. You're welcome to comment down below. If that is not the best place for you, you are also welcome to contact me through Facebook, which is going to be facebook.com/fantasyfiction1. You're also welcome to contact me through Twitter, which is at fantasyfiction1. You're also welcome to join the Discord, which is going to be a way for you to talk to me as well as a lot of your other fantasy fanatics. We've got over 40 people on the Discord over there, lots of people hanging out, seeing what each other has to say, chit-chatting about all things fantasy as well as other things as well. So if you just like to hang out and talk about some fun things, go ahead and join us over there. And of course, I'm over there as well, so you are welcome to contact me through there as well. Your link will be down below in order to join. We'd love to have you and discuss some fantasy fiction with you. If you'd like more content from me or other content from me, you can head over to the blog, fantasyfictionfanatics.net. I've got written book reviews over there, book suggestions. I've got different topics about reading or different topics about fantasy over there, like point of view, writing tips, lots of different things over there. So if you'd like more from me, go ahead and check that out. And of course, let me know any content that you would like to see either on here or on the blog. I would be happy to accommodate you. And I guess that is it for me today, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.